Aruto watches helplessly as his lover Hana dies before his eyes. The murderer mocks Aruto, saying that his existence power, the basis of one's potential strength, is far too weak to stop him. After this, Aruto devoted his life to trying to find a way to revive Hana. Nearly 50 years later, after reaching level 99, he still has nothing. After succumbing to his wounds and old age while exploring a dungeon, he wishes for another chance to see her again. Moments later, he finds himself on top of a hill, talking to a weird blob in a chair. The blob says he has obtained the tear of God, and has thus earned the right to be reborn. But if he so wishes, he can let his soul rest. But Aruto is a man on a mission, and he chooses to be reborn. The blob gives him this one chance in 20 years to change his fate, and despite the risks involved, Aruto would do anything for another opportunity to save his beloved. The blob resets Aruto to 0, retaining only his memories. That is how, for the second time, Aruto is born into the world. Aruto finds himself in a crib, staring at his parents. As his parents fawn over him, Aruto comes to accept that he really has been reborn. This time, Aruto won't waste a second of his life. However, he is a baby, and babies can't exactly do a lot. He tries rolling around and inadvertently opens his stat window, with all his stats being 1. When he was talking to the blob, Aruto was given a choice of a gift, as all humans have at least one gift. He passes over other skills like charisma and wisdom, and instead chooses creation. This creation allows him to see the specifics of his parameters, which will greatly help Aruto in optimizing his stats. With no time to waste, and at just 1 month old, Aruto tries to climb from his crib. They tell Aruto not to rush since he has plenty of time, but Aruto must gain strength as quickly as possible in order to kill the wizard who murdered Hana. However, this is not the only danger. Aruto knows that 8 years from now, his parents will die. When Aruto turned 8, goblins attacked his village for the first time. His father stayed behind to fend them off, but soon after, goblins also killed his mother, leaving Aruto an orphan. But this time, things are different. This time, Aruto can prevent their deaths. In the months and years that follow, Aruto slowly but surely ranks up his stats, learning new skills as he goes. In what seems like an instant, the fateful day arrives, and Aruto turns 8. His parents send him to the local church to receive his magic bracelet, which serves as a form of identification. Now with all the pieces in place, Aruto reviews his statistics again. His magic power is a modest 32, which he deems just enough to fight off goblins, but the purpose of one skill, crafting, still eludes him, as nothing happened when he tried activating it. He hears movement in the deep woods, and he sees shadowy figures. The goblins have arrived. Aruto peers through the trees and sees 3 goblins, a scouting party, in the distance. As he calms himself for his first battle in his new life, the goblins catch his scent and attack. Aruto manifests fire magic in his hand and blasts one of the goblins. When it stops moving, Aruto is encouraged that he can fight back. After killing the other 2, a level-up window appears, but Aruto feels dizzy for a moment. Another goblin attacks him in his weakened state, which manages to inflict a wound on his arm. Aruto sees the main force arrive, and as more and more goblins appear, he nearly gives in to despair, as there is no way he can fight back with an injured arm. But after remembering the face of his mother, he resolves to fight on. As he does so, he levels up again, and his crafting skill activates. Aruto is surprised his crafting skill activated, and he suspects it was because his magic crossed a certain level. He decides against using it, wary that it might be a non-combat skill. He continues to rely on his fireball, but when he stretches out his hand, he casts Grave instead, which sends the goblins down a bottomless trap hole. Aruto raises his hand in triumph, proud that he has defended his village. Defeating so many goblins at once rapidly raises his level, which also means he gets a killer headache and passes out. When he comes to, he discovers a small slime offering him water. It jumps up and down in slimy glee, and Aruto wonders what it is. Slimes aren't necessarily the friendliest of creatures, so Aruto wonders why this one seems different. As Aruto looks over his small village, he speaks to himself and the slime about his wish to become stronger, so he decides to go to the city of Kinodrigris, a month's walk away, famous for its decorated adventurers. With only 7 years until the death of his beloved, he leaves his parents a letter, apologizing for his sudden disappearance, but thanking them for the happiest 8 years of his life. The slime decides to accompany him, so he names it Rue, and it jiggles in approval. 1 month later, Aruto and Rue continue fighting their way through the wilderness, gathering precious stones as they go. Rue finds a small clearing underneath a cliff, and Aruto decides to camp there for the night. Aruto goes over his stats again, and he feels that he is progressing at a rapid pace. and soon he can even go into dungeons. Ru takes one of his meat skewers and places it inside its belly, to remind Arudo to eat. Arudo is glad to at least have a slimy companion. Arudo senses someone watching him and tosses a rock into the darkness, but the shadowy figure is blindingly fast. Arudo fears it is a bandit out for his stones, but to his surprise, it is a beast girl out for his meat. The girl introduces herself as Magica, and Arudo surmises from her ear and tail that she is a squirrel girl. He is glad she is not hostile, but all she seems to care about is eating meat. Magica accompanies him to Kenotagris, citing that she also has business there, and she can't leave a kid like him alone. Though Arudo isn't keen of the idea at first, he suddenly warms up to her. After the gatekeeper confirms Arudo isn't a criminal, and he pays his taxes, he is allowed entry into the city. Kenotagris means disorder, and true to its name, it is a melting pot of races and cultures. Magica is nervous being around so many people, and Arudo nearly lets slip his secret of being reincarnated. He notes that in his past life, he first came to Kenotagris when he was 10, and the city now looks far cleaner than before. The pair head to the Adventurers Guild to exchange their magic stones, but the receptionist, who thinks he's just some regular kid, waves them away. Arudo dumps the magic stones on the counter, and points that Magica was responsible for collecting them. He receives 2 gold coins and a few silver coins for his troubles, and he uses Magica again to register as an adventurer. Magica has mixed feelings about being used like this, but Arudo has no other choice. He offers to treat her to a meal, and Magica decides to join him for the time being. Arudo and Magica settle into an inn, and after Magica showers, she is amazed to see Arudo manipulating mana, which is ordinarily impossible for humans. It is revealed that Magica has been following Arudo since his defeat of the goblins, suspicious of his mature demeanor and battle prowess as unfit for a child. She wonders if he is the fabled hero, but her oracle said the hero was a girl. Regardless, she feels that Arudo has some major role to play in changing the world. As they sleep, Magica senses a thief outside their window, and she considers attacking him herself, but she wants to see how Arudo handles it. Arudo instantly senses the thief and talks to him, confirming that he is after the money inside his satchel. As the thief bumbles for an answer, Arudo says he is unfit to be a thief, and he blasts him out the window. Magica is shaken by how powerful Arudo's magic is for a kid, but as she turns to him, he has already fallen asleep. After devouring breakfast, Arudo returns to the Adventurers Guild, and the receptionist, Rien, tries to wake him off again, since he is busy talking to his boss. However, Arudo wanted to talk to the boss. He suspects that there is a thief in the guild, since last night, a thief snuck into his room to steal the gold he earned from selling magic stones. They knew exactly what and where the money was, otherwise, why would they bother going through a child's bag? Arudo knows full well that Rian was the culprit, and as he continues giving ways to track the thief, from Magica's magic mark to a dagger the thief dropped, Rian keeps him quiet by letting him keep the dagger. Magica asks him if it was okay to let Rian be, but Arudo's real aim was the expensive dagger, and Rian is unlikely to cross them again after being warned. Ryan and Magica enter the labyrinth of Kenotagris, and he explains that the 1st to 25th floors are used by new adventurers to train. When a giant runaway rat stampedes towards them, Arudo stealthily uses his grave skill to send it down a pit. To not draw attention to himself, Arudo does not take credit for it. Magica spearheads their advance, and Arudo is impressed by the dagger, which gives him plus 10 speed. To properly use weapons like this, he must become stronger, so he decides to head to the top layer. After smashing through a group of skeletons, Arudo explains that the top layer begins after the 50th floor. Magica curiously asks what kind of person Arudo is, since the monsters he defeated weren't easy by any means. This catches Arudo off guard, as Magica is the first person to acknowledge him despite his poor existence power. In the past, despite hitting level 99, only Hannah saw his true strength. As they continue to ascend, they encounter the Red Ogre, a monster Arudo struggled to defeat in his previous life. He tells Magica to back off, as he wants to test his skill against his old adversary alone. But the Red Ogre's skin is like steel, and his dagger barely leaves a scratch. But Arudo is unrelenting, and he continues attacking the same spot over and over again, until the ogre's head falls off. Magica is stunned, and she is further convinced that Arudo is some supernatural existence. Arudo is happy with the magic stone they acquired, but he and Magica begin hearing an unearthly rumbling. He considers running away, but he tells Magica if they show their backs to this beast, they might die. The plant ogre makes its appearance. Although neither is strong on its own, the ivy controlling the ogre heightens its strength to ludicrous levels, and as such, it is a monster normally found only on the 70th floor. Aruto warns Magica that they should just escape after all, but Magica stands her ground. Internally, she tells herself that she has trained harder than anyone else, so she could be the hero's right hand. But after meeting Aruto, she realizes she is still far too weak, and she wants to prove her worth both to him and to herself. She leaps in with her fists, but the plant ogre is unfazed. Magica decides to use her superior speed to gain the advantage, favoring the number of hits over power, but the ivy's tendrils lash out and hold her in place. Aruto fires off wind magic to cut her free, and he gently lets her down with a breeze. Frustrated by her own weakness, she activates the artifact on her gloves, Stella Magnum, and launches an attack with all her concentrated mana poured into it. She is confident this is enough, but she looks on in horror as the plant ogre stands. Literally, tis but a scratch. The plant ogre nearly crushes her to death, but Aruto throws it off balance with a well-timed earthquake. Aruto carries Magica to safety and tells her to leave it to him. He leaves Ru to take care of her, while he walks back to face the plant ogre. Aruto tries to attack it head-on, but his speed pales in comparison to Magica's, and a tendril smacks him squarely in the gut. To counter the ogre's heightened regeneration and exploit its weakness to fire, he engulfs his dagger in flames. He swings to the nape of the ogre to attack the IE directly, and his flames burn the parasitic plant to a crisp. Both collapse from their injuries, but Magica is mortified that she is weaker than a child. When they awaken, they find themselves outside the dungeon, thanks to Ru, who somehow dragged 2 humans down 50 floors and out the door. Magica returns to the inn first, leaving Aruto behind. Aruto is surprised that Magica is an artifact wielder, which are rare and powerful treasures. However, if Aruto's memory serves him well, the user of the artifact Stella will die in 7 years. As Aruto recalls Magica's description, appearance, and wielded artifact, he realizes she is the same Magica X-3rd the Terror, one of the 6 dangerous beings declared enemies of God by the Church. Though the Inquisition to kill her and the others has yet to be ordered, he knows it will come soon. Magica's existence power is 4 stars compared to his 1, and Aruto knows that Magica will eclipse him in power and skill in the future. Aruto laments his own weakness, but he cheers up as he gives Ru a bath. Afterwards, Magica speaks with Arturo outside. After an awkward silence, she recounts how she never thought she could lose to a monster and how confident she was in her strength over other adventurers. However, her experience earlier made her realize just how green and inexperienced she was, so she decides to begin training separately from now on. She owes him a lot for showing her this, and she promises not to lose to him next time. Aruto laughs and they clink their mugs of hot chocolate together, promising to meet again. But as Aruto would later come to know, no matter how much effort you put in, there is overwhelming strength that exists to make it all worthless. Aruto looks at Magica's now empty bed, and he continues to devote himself to training once more. He begins experimenting with his create skill, and after cracking open a rock to discover a precious metal, he unlocks the ability to smith. Combining his new powers, he forges a sword for himself. Aruto continues to train, and as he increases the proficiency of his skills, he discovers new ones. At level 36, while fighting giant centipedes, he discovers he can dual wield. While confronting a stampeding horde of bulls, he finds he can combine 2 spells at once. At level 40, he earns the hack skill. Unfortunately, it's not computer hacking, but it allows him to expel a certain amount of mana to force a target to move in a certain direction. As months pass, Aruto overhears rumors of a weirdo, a small kid with a slime, hunting thousands of monsters in the upper floor. He is excited that he is finally being recognized, despite his low existence power. However, he isn't too happy about being called a weirdo. While telling the innkeeper he will be away for several days, he learns that Magica hasn't returned in a while. He is worried, but he is confident that if it is Magica, she is definitely alive. However, when he hears the arrival of the Pope's Knights, he suddenly realizes that if his future changes, Magica's future may also change. The Inquisition may have already begun. As he races to where he thinks Magica is, a man in the church's carriage sees him. Aruto uses his detect skill to search for Magica, and he is glad to see her alive. She is evidently glad to see him too, given how much her ears are moving. Aruto lies and says he was out on his routine morning jog when he happened to bump into her. As they catch up, they see the sky suddenly darken, and Aruto gets an eerie feeling from the black sphere overhead. It cracks open, and a devil, a monster of the highest level, emerges from within. It begins causing untold amounts of destruction, but Aruto's legs won't move, just like when Hannah was killed. While Aruto still struggles to rise to his feet, Magica leaps in to engage the devil. He sees she is much faster and more powerful than before, but the devil's regenerative abilities keep it alive. She attempts to use Stella Magnum, but the devil's speed goes up by 1 step, and she is nearly killed. As he watches Magica and the devil locked in a bitter stalemate, Aruto curses his own weakness, but when he sees mana swirling around his hand, he finds a way to use magic without moving. Magica struggles to keep up with the devil. Not only are its strength and speed equal to or greater than hers, but it also boasts passive regeneration, and Magica fears she might fall in just 1 hit. To kill it, she needs a window to use her artifact, Stella. She is blown away by a strong aura, and she lays helpless as the devil blasts a torrent of flames towards her. Suddenly, with his new skill, Hack, Aruto sends the flames away from Magica. Both she and the devil are speechless, and she quickly realizes Aruto is responsible. He uses Hack again to push the devil towards Magica, giving her the opening she needs to use Stella Magnum. The devil is defeated. Magica helps Aruto to his feet and carries him back to the inn. Magica asks about that new skill Aruto used, and he explains how it can be used to change the level of mana within an object, allowing him to move it at will. Magica is impressed, but Aruto gives her credit where credit is due. He couldn't have done it without her. Aruto wonders who defended the city in his past life, as there are not a lot of people out there that could go toe-to-toe against a devil. But he senses a sinister aura, and he asks Magica to stop. His figure, hooded cloak, and evil aura are unmistakable. He sees the man who killed Hannah, Gimizan the magician.